Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another talkie. Kevin here. I'm flying solo on this episode today. Wanted to do kind of a throwback episode here, just real quick. I was thinking about the Fox X-Men movies, and I was like, you know what? I never have just gone back and just tried to rank those movies back before. They kind of that movie, the original X-Men, came out 2 years after Blade. So we had Blade in '98, and we had X-Men in 2000, and then we had Spider-Man in 2002. And those three films just kind of launched the big superhero wave of Marvel that we know today. So this was all like started pre-MCU. So there was no Iron Man or Avengers or anything in the movies at that time. But the X-Men were a big deal, and they came along in 2000. Like I said, I was a huge fan back in the '90s. So when this was getting turned into a franchise, I was just through the roof with excitement. And of course, they had some hits and misses, and so I thought I'd go back and kind of retroactively see where my brain is with the franchise as it stands today, because my opinion has changed a lot. It may change in the middle of this ranking, it may change tomorrow, but I just thought I'd go back and just kind of give those a ranking. Now, I'm not going to be including Deadpool and Wolverine because it's with the MCU and tied in with that. So these are basically the original X-Men trilogy, then you've got the 4 first-class films, and then you've got the original Wolverine trilogy, and you've got the New Mutants, Deadpool 1 and 2. So I didn't bother to count those. Let me see real quick what we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Looks like 13. So we'll just go with that. We'll say there's 13. And I'm going to start from worst to best and just do my classic countdown here. But we're just going to do the Fox X-Men, guys. Just my opinion, so keep in mind it's probably going to be way different from yours just because of the kinds of movies that I enjoy and the characters that I like better than others. So keep that in mind. There is a little bit of bias here with my ranking. So at number 13, dead last, is X-Men Dark Phoenix. I was so disappointed in this because the First Class series came along and kind of rebooted everything, and it was kind of a prequel to the other series, but then like the continuity was kind of all over the place. Like they would show characters that they had already shown before, and in the movies that are supposed to be later, and you just have to suspend disbelief if the film's good enough for you to just turn your brain off and just enjoy it. But Dark Phoenix was such a big letdown, because I like the other three, even one that's hated by a lot of people, which we'll go into shortly. But Dark Phoenix to me was just such a big letdown, and it retconned Apocalypse in a way, because at the end of X-Men Apocalypse, spoiler alert, Jean Grey uses the Phoenix Force to help destroy Apocalypse, and this one, which is supposed to take place like a decade later, that's when she apparently encounters the Phoenix Force in space, and so they act like this is the first time she's coming into that power and all this kind of stuff, and it attracts these aliens, the Dabari or whatever they're called, and Voot, the leader, and so they're after that power and all that. But I always thought it was funny when you look at First Class all the way to Dark Phoenix, it's supposed to cover a span of about 40 years or so, and none of the X-Men age at all. I was like, I get it with Wolverine and stuff, but nobody ages. I get it. Maybe they all have the mutant gene, and maybe it suppresses it to a certain degree, but I just thought that was kind of funny. I'm not knocking it for that reason, because I wouldn't. I really enjoyed Fassbender and McAvoy as Magneto and Xavier, but it's always kind of funny that they never aged at all. But that's my number 13. My number 12 is going to be the New Mutants. This one hit right in the middle of COVID. I don't even know if it got a theatrical release. I don't think it did. But it's very small scale. And when they announced this movie, they acted like it was going to be like an X-Men version of like a horror movie. They were going to take a horror turn with the X-Men, which sounds intriguing. That sounds really cool. But it ends up being just a PG-13 watered down version of what they promised. And you got a handful of mutants here who are outcasts and runaways, and then you've got Dr. Reyes, who is, they don't spell it out, but she is a henchman of Sinister, and she's got the little Mr. Sinister diamond thing on her shirt or whatever, and like that's as close as we've had like 3 or 4 different teases of Mr. Sinister, and they never show him, but this is the one where he was the most heavily implied, and it still never showed him. So maybe it's good because New Mutant was just not that good, and you had the whole demon bear thing where they're fighting this big CGI demon bear. And, you know, Magic was the coolest character, but she was also kind of a jerk, and you couldn't really get behind her very, very much with her attitude and everything. But eventually they come around and they team up, and, you know, things get better. But I don't know, it's just, New Mutants just didn't do it for me. I was really disappointed in it. I wanted to like it, I really did, but at the end of the day, yeah, it sits right here at number 12. Number 11, X-Men Origins Wolverine. This at the bottom of a lot of people's list. And here's the thing, like Hugh Jackman is still great, even though the movie's not that good. I enjoy his performance in it. I like the banter and the dialogue between him and Sabretooth and how they always, you know, are at each other and everything. But you have like these awful, stupid mistakes that were made. Just, you know, the CGI claws are notorious in this movie. They're just so bad. Cartoonish claws, like you've done it for a decade almost prior to this. You had perfect claws. You had the handheld stuff. You had the, you know, you didn't need this CGI nonsense. And it just looks so fake when he's looking in the mirror and making the sparks. And it was terrible. And then you've got like the atrocity that was supposed to be Deadpool that they turned into Weapon 11, and it kind of, you know, it's what spawned Deadpool as we know it today, which was a lot more comic accurate. But, you know, they threw Gambit in here. They didn't have Gambit right. And, you know, it's like, what's really the purpose of this? Like, we know how Wolverine got his adamantium, but the story just kind of takes a loop. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's just kind of pointless, you know? But I enjoy some of the fight scenes, and I enjoy Hugh Jackman's always fun to watch, but at the same time, it's just, you know, it's not, I can watch it more than a lot of other people probably can, but I do know it's not good. So that's 13, 12, 11. Number 10, this isn't going to be popular, but I got the original Deadpool sitting here. Deadpool's just not my favorite character. I don't hate him, but this first movie was, I mean, I know it was a fan favorite, and it took a lot to get this thing rolling, and I can appreciate everything that went into it, and I think Ryan Reynolds fits the role really well. But, you know, and Colossus was cool, but it's like, you know, you could tell they had budget restraints, which is not necessarily a knock on the movie, but I just want something different from the X-Men universe, and it's just, Deadpool is not my favorite character, and just having these pretty much nobody mutants in it that, you know, probably a lot of people didn't know who some of these characters were before the movie. Whatever, it is what it is. I don't despise it, but I just don't enjoy it. And right behind that, I'm going to put Deadpool 2. I think it was a little bit better just because it had more characters that I recognize. We had X-Force for about 3 seconds, even though they all got dispatched very, very quickly. With Shatterstar going into the helicopter blade and different things like that. It was played for humor, but they just wasted the characters. But Cable was really good in it. Josh Brolin was great as Cable. And there's funny line of dialogue, which I'm not going to say on the video, but involving Black Tom Cassidy, who has a couple cameos in this. And there's actually a cameo of Omega Red, which he doesn't speak or anything, but I thought it was cool that he's kind of in the background there in the prison. Their version of the Juggernaut was pretty accurate. So they did some things right. It was a lot more bigger budget, you could tell, and it was a lot more fun. But it's still, let's see, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. That's number 9, I believe. So number 8, I'm going to go with the original X-Men here for the simple fact that it has not aged well. This movie just has not aged well at all. The graphics and the special effects and the cinematography, everything just so dated at this time period. And I can appreciate it for what it did. There's a lot of just really glaring mistakes and really bad cinematography issues. there's a couple of things that is just so date this so bad that I just can't really get behind it very much. So it sits right here at number 8. Number 7, I'm going to go X-Men Apocalypse. I think this movie gets a lot of undue hate. I do like this movie. I don't love it, but I do like it. It's got a lot going for it. They had big aspirations here with trying to do a character like Apocalypse. I think if they had thrown Disney money at it, like, Disney did with Thanos, if they had used Thanos money on Apocalypse, it could have been so much better. But they wanted to go practical with the prosthetics and everything with Oscar Isaac, and he didn't have the right stature, the right build for it. Even his voice wasn't right. They tried to alter it at certain parts and everything. They did what they could with it. I didn't hate it, but at the same time, I mean, it's number 7, so I didn't love it. But it is what it is. I still enjoy watching this one occasionally. I'll pop it in and watch it every now and then. But definitely it's not as good as its predecessors, for sure. Number 6, we're going X-Men The Last Stand. Now, this used to be at the bottom of a lot of people's list, and because I think Dark Phoenix and how they retold the Phoenix saga again, only they did it worse this time, I think Last Stand has actually moved up a little bit. And I could kind of flip-flop Last Stand and Apocalypse because there's times when I feel like this one's better than this one's not as good. And, but we'll stick with it today. But I thought Wolverine, he had a very prominent role, of course, as Hugh Jackman did in at least the original trilogy for sure, and a couple of the others too. But people thought that was a bad thing, but I thought he pretty much carried it. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on that would not have flown nearly as well without Hugh Jackman's presence in the franchise. He is Wolverine. There will never be a better cast of a character than that for me. And I know it's not comic book accurate with the height and all that. I do not care. Hugh Jackman nails that role so well that he can carry even a bad X-Men movie. And he did that a few times. But this one, they just tried to do too much. They had the humans with the cure, and Rogue wanted to get a cure and all that. And so they were militarizing the cure to go against mutants. You had Magneto breaking the Brotherhood out and reforming a new faction of that and moving the Golden Gate Bridge to Alcatraz, where they were going to eliminate this little boy named, they called him Jimmy, but he's Leech in the comics, and he's the one they were using his DNA for the cure. And then you also they were trying to cram the Dark Phoenix saga in here, where you got, Jean Grey has come back from what they thought was death, and she's killed Cyclops, and she's killed Xavier, and all this. And so you got so much that they're trying to cram into this movie that's basically like an hour and a half long, and it was not a good idea to try to do so many story threads because none of it felt cohesive. There's some fun stuff here. And I think the finale of it's good. The climax with Dark Phoenix and Wolverine, I think it's fun. It's still fun, but it is dated, and it's a mess of a plot if you study it for very long. Number 5, I believe we're at now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 is the Wolverine. I enjoy the first 2/3 of this movie, and then when it gets to the finale where he's going to fight the Silver Samurai mech suit, it kind of takes me out. I don't like the you got to hold this samurai sword with 2 hands and it heats it up and you can cut adamantium with it, and they cut Wolverine's claws off. And then he's tell me how even with the adamantium, he's still got chunks of his adamantium there. How does his bones push through that? That doesn't make sense. He gets his bone claws at the end of it. But there's cool stuff in here, like at the beginning where he's at Nagasaki and they're going to drop the atom bomb or whatever, and like he throws the old dude down in the hole and covers him up, and like he's charred from head to toe from taking that nuclear blast. It's pretty wild, but I mean it's fun. That part's fun. You see Wolverine here, he's dealing with the death of Jean Grey, where he had to kill her in The Last Stand. And so he's just kind of a nomad. He's just roaming around like a hobo, and he's let his face grow all grizzled out and everything, and and then he has to go to Japan and for all this different stuff. And they shoehorn some characters in like they do most of the time, but there's some fun stuff when he gets to Japan. And the bullet train scene is really fun that a lot of people talk about. So I enjoy it for the most part, but just the end just throws me off. I will say it has one of the best end credit scenes or mid credit scenes ever, where Wolverine's at the airport and he gets to smelling, and everybody, like, if things seem to stop at the airport, and he turns around and Magneto's there, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "There are dark forces here. We need your help." And he's kind of like, "Who's we?" or something like that. And then Xavier rolls up, and he's just like, stunned, because last time he saw him, he was disintegrated by Dark Phoenix, and he's like, "You're not the only one with gifts." And that's the most of an explanation you're ever going to get for that. But it was a really cool moment, because it took me back to the original X-Men trilogy that gave me so much joy at that time. So I appreciated it. Number 4, we're going X2 X-Men United for the first however many, a couple of years at least, when this movie came out. I went to the theater a couple times to see this one, just like X3. But this was my favorite movie for a long time. And it definitely slid down the ranks after a while. But X2, man, had some of the best stuff when the Strikers guys invade the mansion and Wolverine's taking on all the military guys and he jumps over the banister and everything. Everybody can remember that stuff, right? There's some really good character development where he goes back to try to figure out the whole Weapon X thing. And, we introduced... Nightcrawler's introduced to us in this one. Had a great opening for this one where he's taking out the White House staff and everything. Really cool stuff there. Wolverine fighting Lady Deathstrike was really cool. There's just a lot of really good moments. Xavier's been captured by Stryker, and his son's doing stuff with Xavier's head and making him, manipulating him and everything. And then you got Magneto actually teaming with the X-Men, but of course he's got ulterior motives and all that. It's just so much fun. Magneto breaking out of prison where he takes the iron out of the dude's body and uses it to break out of a plastic prison. That was awesome. There's just a lot of really cool moments here. X2 was awesome. Number 3, I'm going X-Men First Class. This one can be corny. I don't like the outfits. I don't like the look of Beast in this one. Of course, we had an all-new cast, all-new crew of X-Men here. They had to start from scratch because you didn't want to reuse. It's kind of a prequel, so you didn't want to reuse a lot of the same characters. But it works. I mean, I think Jennifer Lawrence in the First Class series got way too much screen time. She was out of makeup more than she was in it as Mystique, and they made Mystique too important, and I didn't like that. But a lot of people will say that they made Wolverine too important, which I can understand, but I think Wolverine's a more charismatic character than Mystique is, personally. And I think Hugh Jackman is a lot of the reason why that works so well. But anyway, Michael Fassbender is awesome in this. This is probably my favorite role of his, and my favorite performance of his is him in First Class playing Magneto. He's awesome, and James McAvoy's Xavier is great too, and they play really well together. You got Kevin Bacon here, Sebastian Shaw, who's running the Hellfire Club, the evil villains there, and it's during the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that. So I like how the First Class movies always interloop with something that's going on in real world history, and I can appreciate that. And so First Class is here at number 3. Number 2 is a lot of people's number 1, and that's Logan. And the reason it's not my number 1 mainly is because it's hard to watch. This movie is a gut punch, and there's very little levity in it. It's just so heavy to sit through this movie, and it's heartbreaking, especially how Xavier goes out. I just can't stand that. It just burns me up how Xavier goes out. And the whole time, by Wolverine's clone, the X-24, and the whole time, Logan's carrying out Xavier while he's dying. He's like, "It wasn't me, Charles," and he's trying to tell him it wasn't him. It's just heartbreaking, the stuff that happens in this movie, and you can see a lot of it coming a mile away, how it's going to play out. It's going to end bad, but they keep hinting at this thing where Xavier keeps having, those spasms where he's like, everybody around him is pretty much dying, and and it ends up that's what happened he killed all the X-Men, and they didn't spell it out, but they started to, and they play it on the radio, and Wolverine turns it down, and it's alluded to a lot, and that Xavier killed his own children, and all of that, and that's heartbreaking. And then you got Daphne Keene playing X-23 with some mini-me Wolverine, and boy, she's ruthless, especially when she's fighting the Reavers. Oh man, there's some really good stuff here. But it is a heavy watch for me, and it is so bleak and just, it's hard, it's painful, and that's why it's a number 2 rather than number 1. My number 1 is X-Men Days of Future Past. I love it because you've got your future X-Men and your past X-Men in the same film on the same narrative trying to stop the same thing from happening. And it's awesome. I love, and people again were like, well, that should have been Kitty Pryde going back in time. You say that, but like, there was no way that Ellen Page, or Elliot Page as he is now, is going to carry this the same way that Hugh Jackman did. There's no way. Hugh Jackman's got that charisma. He's got that star power that's going to carry a movie like X-Men. And I don't think you can throw that on just anybody's shoulders. I do like that Wolverine was the one that went back. I mean, if you try to strain your brain about how Kitty Pryde's powers work, you know, she phases through walls, but now they've made it to where she can teleport people back in time, which you got to suspend what little belief you've got already to make that work. But I love it. And this one of my favorite parts of this movie is introducing us to their version of Quicksilver, and it's the breakout scene and all of that in the kitchen. Oh man, it's so good. Time in the Bottle song playing. I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. And you got the Sentinels from the past and the Sentinels from the future, and then you got Magneto, and Wolverine had to help break Magneto out of prison, and then of course Magneto is going to turn on him because that's what Magneto does. And the whole time they're saying he's trying to reason with Xavier because Xavier's kind of given up on hope of ever. His dream of human mutants cooperating with each other and living together, he's pretty much given up. And so Beast developed a serum for him that brings his legs back, but it messes with his brain, and his mind powers don't work anymore. So he needs Xavier with his mind powers, which is going to take his legs away. And there's some heartbreaking moments there. There's a moment where young Xavier is in like this astral plane, and he's talking to old Xavier. They're talking man to man, and man, it's just like a gut punch, man. And it's emotional. There's a lot of emotions here, and they're trying to stop Mystique from killing Trask because he's the one that funds the Sentinels and creates those. And like, if they kill Trask, then they're going to put it into practice, and the Sentinels are going to be unstoppable in the future. They use Mystique's DNA, and they can basically refute any power that is given to is attacked on them. So, and this guy was in there, Bishop, and I was hoping Bishop would be in Days of Future Past, because I remember from the X-Men cartoon, that was one of my favorite storylines, was Days of Future Past, and Bishop was a huge player, and they showed Bishop in there. So that was cool, even though he was on screen a couple of times. Most of those guys were just cameos just to die. It was cool to see Blink. She was cool. Warpath was in there. Sunspot was in there. Rest in peace, Aiden Canto. But anyway, Days of Future Past is my favorite X-Men movie to date. I love it so much, and that's why it's at the top of the pile. And I don't know that one will ever be changed, because I don't know how Disney's going to handle the X-Men. They've had a lot of hits and misses with major properties, Star Wars included, and Marvel as well. I'm just hoping that they just don't ruin it. But I'm optimistic, but cautiously so. I just don't want I don't want to get my hopes up too much and then see it just get destroyed. But anyways, that's my ranking of the Fox X-Men, guys. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. Please consider joining, subscribing to the channel if you like it, and share this across your social media and tell your friends about it. Just trying to have a little fun here on the side, not getting paid for it. Just enjoy talking to you guys. Let's have a lively discussion. How would you rank it? Comment down below. Let me know how you rank the X-Men movies. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Just let me know down below, guys. Until the next video, we'll see you later.